I know that my hair is usually a mess. It's more of a mess than usual right now. It's because I can't actually brush it, so I genuinely have an excuse. So just disclaim this video with, yeah, can't brush my hair or put makeup on or barely actually have a shower, so don't judge. Right, so the question that I got from Trinity was, do I think that the length that a person has suffered from an eating disorder affects their recovery, as in the length of their recovery, or maybe the ease at which they recover or not? And if you were looking at this at face value, you might think, okay, if somebody's had an eating disorder for just sort of 6 months or so, that their recovery might be quicker or easier than a person that's had an eating disorder for 10, 15, 20 years. And you might think that because of the entrenched behaviours and stuff like that. And certainly a degree of that is true. However, I find that the thing that most indicates a person's ability to be successful in recovery is purely and simply their level of determination. And I've also found that people that have had an eating disorder for a long time, when they actually do make that decision to go into recovery, they're fucking determined. And I think that one of the reasons for that is that, say if you've had an eating disorder for 10 plus years, it's probably fucked over almost every aspect of your life. It's probably ruined relationships, it's probably ruined your career, it's ruined your body, it's ruined your interests, and all of those things to come together to make you want to get recovered, because you realise how unhappy you are in almost every aspect possible in life. And so once a person usually gets to that point, they can't be convinced. You know, those thoughts sort of in recovery, and they're fear-based thoughts, the fear of changing, the fear of gaining weight, or the fear of recovery, those thoughts that are sort of, oh, you know, well, it's not so bad having an eating disorder and I can sustain this and I actually quite enjoy it and I really actually like going my compulsive runs every day and I really actually like eating the same meals every single day at the same time and all those things. Your brain tries to convince you of all of those things, and your brain tries to convince you that the benefits of having a suppressed body weight outweigh the costs of living in that way. And you might be more convinced of that when you've only been in it for 6 months and the negative effects of having an eating disorder haven't completely ravaged your life and fucked it all up yet. But when it's been going on for 10 plus years, you're more cynical about it, I imagine. Most of us are just like, yeah, well, I'm fucking done, you know. I know this doesn't make me happy. And the more that somebody gets into that place, I think the more that when they actually decide to recover, they are not going to get pulled into those temptation thoughts of, oh, this isn't so bad after all and I can sustain it. They're just not going to fall for that as much, because they're like, yeah, I've been doing it for 10 years, it still fucking sucks. And so I actually find that, not all the time, of course, this is, you know, there's no generalizations, but I do actually find that when somebody's had an eating disorder for a really long time and they actually then make that decision to recover, they're gonna, you know, it's almost like you've already lost everything, so what have you got to lose? And they fully go for it. And I've seen some incredible people who've had an eating disorder for 20, 30 years make the decision to recover it and fucking nail it, you know. And I've also seen people that have just had an eating disorder for 6 months make the decision to recover and really wobble, because it hasn't been awful for long enough yet for them to not be seduced by those thoughts of continuing to have an eating disorder. And so there's no straightforward answer there. I've also seen people that have had an eating disorder for a short space of time decide to recover and do bloody brilliantly as well. There's just no rule, because recovery is all about determination, and recovery really at the core of it is your ability to overcome your fear response. So there's no hard and fast rule as to who or what or when we would be good at that. It's just individually for each one of us when we make that decision to recover, when we properly make that decision to recover, because people with eating disorders are bloody determined, stubborn assholes, most of us. Once we made that decision to recover, it's going to happen regardless of how long you've had your eating disorder. So that's the bloody good news, isn't it, for all of you? Once you make the decision to actually do this, you're going to do it. It's going to be great, because life without an eating disorder is so much better than one with.